Hello, welcome back to 3 Delirium. My name is AJ, and this week we have an example of how 3D printing quite often involves a bit more effort than ever originally intended. So stay tuned and see how a simple task can easily turn into a complex one. Now first off, my wife and I play a lot of games, like board games and card games and video games, you name it. A few years ago, we found a random pack of the cheapest playing cards we could find. Now, my wife and I can get rather competitive, she would get competitive, and I'm just there to make sure we're both having fun as well. You know, I like ties a lot. But these cards that we picked up were far from quality gaming pieces. So it hasn't taken us long for the whole deck to kind of wear out a bit. Even the box the whole thing came in, it's falling apart and it doesn't even have the top on it anymore, so the cards can easily spill away. So this week I headed to Thingiverse to see if I could find an easy to print like deck case or deck box. And there on Thingiverse I was immediately confronted with one of the downsides of the website. The first search term that popped into my head was 52 card deck box. I knew that the item I was looking for was called a deck box, and the style of deck that I have is a 52 cards. But my search results did not turn up with many of my intended results. But one of the results themselves used the phrase playing card deck, so maybe that was a better or common or more logical term to use. So maybe I'll try with that next. With modified search terms, I was getting a lot of deck boxes that sit vertical, like for fantasy roleplay game decks. But I wanted a horizontal style box for like classic playing card 52 size deck. But alas, then a few pages into my search, I found almost exactly my intended box. But sadly, the little tiny window in the front is very small. I would have preferred one that had a large window so I could see the cards that are inside, and even one on both sides so I can see that card back and that this is the playing card deck. But this is something I can easily add myself to the file, so I think this is what I want to go with. Adding a larger window took almost no time at all, but the boxes were made with rather precise measurements, and I didn't want to adjust any of the size of the boxes because I knew that the boxes were already made for the size cards that I have. So when adding the windows, it was a little tricky to ensure that they were exactly centered, but it didn't take them long to get them where I wanted them, and so it was time to export them into the slicing software. Well, in my head, these two halves of the box are simple geometric shapes. There's no fine details like wargaming models, so I saw no reason to make the print last any longer than it needed to or consume any more filament than it needed to. So I set the quality of the print to the fastest possible, the draft quality, just like on normal ink printers. But the completed result was less than ideal. There was some intense stringing. The layer lines were very, very pronounced. But even worse, like right around the 1 millimeter mark on both sides, there seemed to have been some sort of error, and there's parts that are just pulling away super easily. Now, especially because of the pronounced layer lines around both of the edges, the two halves of the box will stick together extra strong, meaning that it takes more effort to open the box, and then meaning that the parts that are breaking off will then break off even faster. Now, I hope and I'm thinking that this problem might be because I use such a broad detail with the print. So I think if I make it a finer detail, it should fix everything perfectly. So that's the next step. Well, it's done, and that seems to have been exactly my problem. Both of these pieces seem to fit perfectly together. They aren't falling apart. Now, I have noticed that they do slide on and off very easily, They don't hold as well as the over extruded blue one did. But hey, they hold a deck of cards just fine. Even in the box too. Perfect. But it took some time to get here, but it finally worked. So thank you for joining me here this week on 3 Delirium. If you have ever printed one of these for yourself, what design did you use? Did you find one on Thingiverse, or do you prefer to just keep your cards in a deck press, kind of like a vice but for cards? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you next week here on 3 Delirium, where we all can hallucinate about the possibilities of 3D printing. I'll see you then.